When I first heard about an advocate was when I was in psychology, in a psychology session. I got told by my first ever psychologist that I'm aware of that I would make a good advocate, and at that time, I think I was early 20s, I had no idea what an advocate was. I kind of had to go look that up. Internally, my brain went, advocate rhymes with avocado. Maybe she thinks I'm an avocado. But yeah, I think throughout my life, that's kind of what I've done, is be the advocate in people's lives and in my own life. So there's situations where I think an INFJ does see social injustice, and I mean, I've had it said where it's like, oh, you're so quiet, Dion, like in job roles and all that, and it's like, maybe you should like speak up and all that. And I guess when I do tend to speak up, because I'm more of an observing person, or even the introverted intuition is a perceiving function, it's a taking in. So that's kind of how I'll function 24 hours a day. There's no sort of switching off from that. There's going to be parts where I'm observing probably things that people don't want me to observe, or taking in information that people don't want me, or want me to forget rather. But we sort of have this internal ethical code, we INFJs, where it's if we see social injustice, anything that sort of disrupts that harmony, or even stuff that we can perceive, not predict as in like a magic sort of thing, but perceive as in, well, this is happening consistently over time. Where's the change that will give me a different outcome to what I'm already perceiving as already the outcome? But unfortunately with myself, with advocating, is that if I see an injustice, and this is mainly what the Taoist and the counsellor is trying to help me with, is how to be comfortable in that feeling of like running out there into the burning building, sort of metaphor of wanting to help a situation. Because if we can clearly see something ahead of time, we're not doing it to disrupt the social quo. We're doing it to allow the social quo to know there is something up beyond the horizon line, some danger coming. For me, it's moderating that internal. It's kind of like, I mean, if you put it into a feeling sense, it's like where you smell a really yummy food and you're just wanting to devour that sort of thing. And I guess in a way, that's kind of the feeling, not that it's food related, but that strong urge, that sense of urgency almost to advocate either on my behalf or on the whole of the group. But sometimes there's been situations where I find I'm fighting the good fight, but then the going gets tough for some people and the tough get going sort of thing. So you're standing on that hill alone. So it's sort of like picking your battles sometimes. And sometimes it's knowing, am I advocating because I'm hurt? And that, so knowing that, am I advocating as a distraction from my own pain? So that's another thing to consider, is like sort of like where workaholics are sort of like, they need to keep working. It's kind of like an avoidance of pain, or even with alcohol or whatever it is, it's kind of like that avoidance of looking into the pain. So knowing that fighting the good fight is, should I be internally addressing the fight that's going on sort of thing. So that advocacy that comes with the INFJ, because that FE, that external feeling, and combined with that first function of introverted intuition, it's like we're going to be perceiving and feeling sort of thing. So we're probably going to be seeing things a bit 2 steps ahead of most people. It doesn't mean that we're more intelligent, it's just how we think. And we also non-judgmentally think. I mean, it's hard to be completely non-judgmental, but I guess we will consider the other side. And sometimes that's actually works to the advantage in that. If we can consider the other side, it's also almost like a chess player playing against themselves, where it's they'll go to the other side, or like that like seeing how the other person's playing, sort of thing. So can work in, it's like, well, what would their next step be? I guess is a quick way of saying that. So that can actually be helpful. It's like thinking and feeling in their shoes can be quite good for self-advocacy if you're against a person that's quite deceptive or likes to turn reality upside down, if you know what I mean. Self-advocacy in INFJs is quite strong, so we can be sometimes what would look quite like an anarchist, or even like quite punk sort of thing, because we tend to go against the social values of things because we sort of know where those social values come from and also where it might lead. And anarchy sort of seems like, oh well, he's just gone against everything that he said about like wanting social good and all that. But I guess it's how you view anarchy. I'm not like promoting anarchy, I'm just sort of promoting how you would view change. Like change for one person is complete destruction, to another person complete advantage. I mean, in the sense of anarchy for an INFJ is seeing the other side, and our side can actually be quite disruptive to oneself, sort of thing. It's like the truth revealed in a way. So yeah, it's a bit of a balancing act sometimes of keeping that social harmony, and also knowing sometimes the harmony, or the society within that harmony, can be quite disharmonious sometimes. So it's that balancing act of when to speak and when not to speak, in a way of like knowing, will my influence actually have of good influence, or is who I'm influencing probably needs a bit of good. But with all these things, I guess, with advocacy or speaking on someone's behalf, or your own behalf, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of thinking. It's like you can get yourself in that NITI loop just by doing that, or even a whole state of anxiety and tension and that. So it can actually be quite crippling sometimes to an INFJ's life. So I think that's why it's good to moderate, and also good to allow others to make their mistakes, because it can be kind of like that helicopter parent sort of thing. It's like, well, if I can see the trouble ahead of time sort of thing, then if I can prevent it, then they won't actually have that experience of falling in the mud. And I think sometimes we need to learn to fall in the mud. The hard part is like falling in the mud is one thing, like there's other things that affect the greater whole that are just, on a greater whole, just not very positive to the greater whole. And I think for an INFJ, that's sort of like, how do I moderate that feeling? And it's kind of like also why I'm in Taoism sort of thing. It does talk about that, sort of like that fasting of the heart, and that you got to let things take its natural course, as hard as that is. Really hard as it is, because that empathy, that's where it's like dialing that back, and it's also knowing when's to fight and when not to. So we can be that, oh, Dion, you seem so quiet, to the point of like, Dion, shut up, sort of thing. It's like you're giving away everything. It's like, we need you to go back to quiet mode, sort of thing, because it's like you're calling things a bit too much, and it can be like it can be scary for people, because like I don't actually have to be in a situation like around people to actually know if I pick up on the pattern of behavior. It's kind of like spinning plates sort of thing. You got all these spinning plates, and you're just coming back to check on if they're still rotating in the same pattern of behavior, sort of thing. So that can be scary for people. It's knowing, like, sometimes to let things be, and to let things take their course, and to get out of the way of things sometimes, letting people grow. And unfortunately that means falling in the mud. I think it's back to how, like, giving advice sort of thing. It's like you can give the best advice possible. It's whether the person will follow it, or they might take the kernel of that and adapt it into their own way of being. But at the end of the day, it's their life to live. And same for my own self. It's like there's a lot of self-advocacy, a lot of self-caring and self-loving for myself that I'm still growing in, and that I'm still failing in. So how can I clearly know what's right for others when I'm still learning for myself? I can just go based on what I've perceived, and if what I've perceived is accurate, then some consideration or compassion towards that. Because I'm not doing it from a selfish place. I'm more doing it from an extroverted feeling, the harmony of the group sort of a place. So, but yeah, I guess once again the group is made up of individuals with their own experiences and how that resonates against them. Whether they like having advice that is different to their own. So yeah, I'm Dion from Eflowtion Support Services. Thank you for listening to this chat on INFJ Advocacy, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.